goodness, I'm so excited to dive in with Valeria today. She has just become such an incredible mentor in my own life, healer, and a huge part of my own manifestation journey. And I'm just so grateful to have her on the podcast because she has so much wisdom that just courses through her. And it's all wisdom from past lives, from this life, from God, from source, from the guides and embodied knowledge that she's learned from this lifetime. So I'm really excited to have her on to share with us what she's learned throughout her lifetime, past lifetimes from the guides that can really support us in deepening our own manifestation practice. So Valeria, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to have you on.
Yay, I'm so excited as well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, of course. So I think that something that's always really supportive as we even dial it back to just the basics is, how would you describe manifestation in your own words? What kind of drops in as a way of describing manifestation from just the simplest forms or the biggest forms, whatever drops in?
All right, so manifestation to me is when you meaning one, we decide that we want something, and then we just start moving in that direction without allowing any fears or obstacles to stop us.
Yes. Yeah. And you bring up such a good point where it's like that idea of being like, okay, I'm manifesting something and there will be fears and doubts that do pop up, right? It's like the inevitable. And it's how can you move through them, right? So it's like, not letting it actually stop the journey, but having it be like a lesson that we can tap into of like, what can I learn here? How can I grow? Right? Is that what you would see each of those fears that pop up?
Yes, but more of us not giving it a lot of attention. So I'll give you an example. For example, many years back, I needed to sell my house quick. And the market was not what it is like now at all. It usually would take about at least 4 to 6 months for the whole thing to happen. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sell the house. And I decided, and that's the main thing. You decide what it is that you want to manifest. And then you take action, right? You can't just decide and sit there and manifest and visualize and not take action, because that's one of the things that I see a lot of people doing. Okay, I'm doing my manifestation. I'm doing my journaling. I'm doing my vision boards. I'm meditating, but they're not taking actual action. And that's one of the things that we need to take action in this life, because we are living the human experience, and the human experience requires action, physical action. So I began, I put it on the market, and the things started rolling, and then things started coming in, the problems, the blocks. So like, for example, one day it's like, okay, you need to have everything clean or whatever, because people are coming over, right? Like, just as an example. So, okay, when am I going to do that? My schedule is full. When do I do that? Okay, no problem. Let me go do this at this time. And I do it, right? I take care of it so that the house is ready. So what I'm doing here is seeing what the problem is. I need to add something else to my calendar. Where am I going to fit it? That's the fear, right? Where am I going to do it? And I don't have the time. That's the blocks, right? Like somebody telling you, the ego telling you, I don't have the time. And then feeling into that and being, okay, I'm doing it anyway, because my focus is not on this moment of I need to clean the house and find time. My focus is on I'm selling the house. And so you allow all of the fear to be here. You acknowledge it. You don't want to suppress it. You acknowledge it. And then you take action. You keep on taking action. You don't kind of like push it away or give yourself into that space of like, what am I going to do? Oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. And then you like immobilize. So what you want to do is like acknowledge it. Okay, there's all this stuff. How am I going to do it? All right, well, let's do it. And then, like roll up your sleeves and start doing it. And then you get that done. And then, then another thing will come up. So for example, for me, I was at work. I remember I was at work and I got a phone call from my realtor saying, oh, the people who want to buy your house, the inspector just found asbestos in your basement. And my house was one of those houses that had like a full basement. So it was the entire square footage of the house. It was huge. And the first thing that I was like, what? I have asbestos? Like, I had no idea. I don't know how we didn't know when we bought the house. And I have no idea what to do about this. How do I even handle this? I had no idea. So that was the fear. It's like, okay, I'll take care of it. And they needed this, but like, within this week. to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hung up the phone, I took a breath, and I'm like, well, let me look this up. So Google comes in, right? I go asbestos removal, I Google it up, I see companies in my area, I find one, I call, oh, you can come tomorrow? Wow, right? And so this is where the miracles begin to happen. When you see it and you continue moving without remaining in that state of fear, you're like, okay, this is what happened. I don't know what to do. Well, okay, let me look it up. And I look it up. That's my action. That's my human action. I find something. Obviously, I pick somebody who was available. And they were like, oh, we can come tomorrow. And I'm like, yes, okay, go ahead. You know, like I set up the whole thing. I hang up the phone. And then I take this breath and I'm like, wow, I just went a full circle within 1 hour of being like, yes, I have a buyer. Oh no, the buyer doesn't want it. What is this asbestos stuff? What am I going to do? And then finding it and then taking care of it. And it was that quick. So that's how manifestation works. It works by you facing whatever fear or obstacle is showing up within your manifestation goal and not allowing it to remain in your energy, just taking the steps and the actions that continue to bring you forward to the goal. And the goal was not removing the asbestos. The goal was selling the home.
Yes. Yes. That's huge.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So keeping your eye on the bigger picture, even when the little things come through, not hyper focusing on the little things, but actually allowing your energy to stay focused on what's the big thing. Let me continue to take action. I can have the fear. I can do it anyways.
Yes, and as you can see, it's not a little thing, right? Like
right. Yeah. It feels huge, right? Yeah,
but you're huge.
Like, the bigger thing is the selling of the house, even though this is a big thing I have to deal with too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was able to sell my house within 3 months. That is closing within 3 months, which everyone around me was like looking at me and saying, how in the world did you manage that? How did you do that? Because, you know, at that time, it was just like over 20 years ago, it took much longer for everything, all the process to happen until the end. But I just knew, okay, so I'm just going to give you a little bit extra one, right? A little extra thing. When I decided to sell my house, it was May. I had also decided that I was going to move to Italy in the fall. That was September, right? So that's May, June, July, August, September. That's 5 months until I'm supposed to be in a different country out of this house. So that's not enough time, according to what the Matrix is telling us, that it takes 6 months, right, to have the whole thing finished. And I managed to do the whole thing in 3 months. So I was out of the house by July.
It's huge.
You know, and then everything else, I was able to just move on and do the things. But that's what creates that manifestation flow, which is, you know what you want and you do not veer away from it. You know, because we're all going to get all kinds of obstacles and things coming and blocking us. And it is when we give them a lot of energy, like we remain in that space of like, what am I going to do now? Or I can't handle this, or I have no idea. And then you remain there, you give it more and more energy. And instead of taking that energy that you have and put it in the solution, okay, how am I going to resolve this? Right? So you just ask, you can ask out loud, you can ask in your mind, how am I going to resolve this? So this is what I did. Back then, I wasn't doing the spiritual work, but I was manifesting anyway. And I asked, like, how am I going to do this? And then the idea came in. So now I understand that idea was the universe answering me. Hey, you have a computer in front of you. Why don't you look up asbestos? Right? And I took action.
Yes.
Right. And when you are working with your guides or the divine or whomever it is that you work with, they are always there supporting you in whatever you want. So if you want to mull into the, I can't believe this is happening to me, I'm going to lose my buyer, all of that, they're going to support you on that. And you're probably going to lose that buyer and things are not going to work for you. But if you are giving the energy to like, okay, I don't know what to do, please help me. That's when they can step in and help you, because they're watching you and they're supporting you, but they're not stepping in until you actually ask them. So they get permission to intervene in your life and give you a solution.
Ding, 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 ding. Everyone, please like listen to that huge point that Valeria just made, which is your guides are always watching, right? They're right there in the sidelines and they want to help you, but they cannot intervene because we have free will until we ask them to. And our energy is flowing, it's expanding in the direction we're moving in. And the guides are like, I'll help you in whatever way you want me to. But if you're spending all your energy over here focused on the negative, I'm going to help you manifest that. But if you're spending it over here focused on the positive, I'm going to help you manifest that, right? And it's like asking sometimes without even realizing to manifest more of what we just don't want, versus what if I intentionally can ask for what I do want, which is the obstacle has come in. How do I move through this? What is next? Yeah.
What is next? And always keeping your eye on the actual goal that you have set up for yourself. And here's another thing, which is really difficult to grasp sometimes, which is ask, believe, trust, go in that direction, but then remove all expectations from it. And you're like, what? People are like, what do you mean remove? That's what I want, right? But you remove the expectations of the how, the when, the who, right? So you just know, like for me, I want to sell the house. I need to sell the house. I need to be out of my house by this date because I'm moving. And I just saw myself actually living elsewhere, like not in my home. So that was like my vision, right? Like the house has to go because I'm going to be living over there, So perhaps that was even a bigger vision for me of manifestation in getting to sell this home. But the living somewhere else just seemed like it was done for me. Like it was done. Like I just knew that was done. And then I had to get rid of all of these little things, like get rid of my furniture, my possessions, and my home and all of that stuff. So that was like a huge, huge goal, to get to where I had to do. I had to go.
Yeah.
So get out of the way with the expectations of like, how is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? A lot of people get stuck on manifesting because they really put a date. I'm going to, let's say, I'm going to move by the end of August, right? Because I wanted to be in a different place by September, right? I actually was out of my house by July. So let's say you're putting your date. I'm going to be out of my house and sell my house in August, and you're putting all of your energy in August. Well, here, the universe has this other buyer who wants to buy it now, and you can be out of your house by July. But you're holding on to the human part of like August. And so the universe is like, oh, okay, well, the universe is trying to find something that fits what you are attached to as to when. And then it takes longer to manifest that way because you're putting constrictions and rules. And constrictions and rules are very human. They're part of the matrix. They're part of like, this is what we need to create. Does that make sense? As opposed to allowing the universe to just bring you in a way that you can never even imagine how much better it is.
Yes. So would you say that date that you had in your mind about, I would like to be in Italy in September, that was actually not an expectation? It was more of a desire or a sense of knowing? Like, how would you describe to people that are kind of trying to figure out the difference between the expectation, because there was a timestamp that you were moving towards, but how do you work towards quote unquote that type of timestamp versus like releasing expectation from it? Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Excellent question. So I think what happened for me, and I'm saying I'm thinking because, it was a long time ago. And again, I was not doing this work back then, but I'm bringing it up from back then. And especially telling you that I was not doing this type of work back then because we all are doing this all of the time. And so if somebody's coming into this space and they're just starting, it doesn't mean that you are just starting manifesting or you're just starting your work. You have been doing it all along. You just haven't put it together that you have. So I just wanted to say that. I came back in May and I was like, okay, I'm moving to Italy. That's where I want to be. And I need to do all of these things. And one of them, the biggest one, was to sell my home. And then I started the process. And then as I started the process, other things started to fall into place. I didn't have this September thing that I'm going to move in September right off the bat. It was more of like, I know I'm moving there and let me get rid of all of these things. And the vision is like to go there. And then the selling of the home was a big thing. Like, I want to do this now because I want to be out. Oh, I know what happened. I now remember. I was working as a temp in New York City, and the temp job was going to end in August. And so that's why I was thinking, well, I could work until the end of August and make more money, like instead of leaving early, and then I can move in September. So I think that was the thought. And also my brother was getting married in September. So I obviously wanted to be here for his wedding. And so I was going to wait until that happened and then move.
Okay. So it was
So
like,
I wasn't
ideal state, this is the date, and release some of the expectation around it as well.
Yeah, it was more of like, I'm moving and I definitely want to stay here until at least this time, which was end of August, to work on my temp job. I definitely want to be here for my brother's wedding. I'm not going to travel and come back and then go back again. So I just knew I was going to move. And like the date of when was very fluid for me. It didn't matter. And then as time went on, that, I started seeing all the other things move forward. I was like, oh, I think I can make it by this date. And then just like that, I got an apartment that I rented starting at the end of September in Italy. And I was like, oh, it works perfect, right? So like, that's another synchronicity of like, oh, look at that. Like, I wasn't sure when, but now this is available and I can start renting it now for that date. And so everything just started to flow and fall into place because I was just focused on like, I'm doing it. And there was no question about it not happening at all. It was just like, that was the decision. I think there's something else that when it comes to manifestation is really important, is actually making the decision 100% and jumping in with both feet without knowing where you're going to land. And that is the trusting that I decided I'm going, I know the universe has my back and it's going to catch me.
Yes. Putting both feet in and fully trusting. Because I think sometimes we'll dip our toe in and be like, maybe if it'll work, that sounds good. But it's like fully leaning in and being like, this will work. I'm unattaching to the time frame because my success is inevitable, or moving to Italy is inevitable, unless there's something better that the universe has in store for me. But I am open to what that something better could be. But this feels so deeply aligned with my soul, I'm going to keep following it.
Yeah, but you said something really interesting here. You said this will work, and it's never this will work, because when you start manifesting and invoking this will, then you're always in the state of will, which means it's always in your future.
Right. Yes. So shifting that language. Yes.
Yeah. So it's all about, I'm there. It's happening. Like it's already there. Like I know I'm going to be living in Italy. I know it. Like it's just a matter of like getting rid of all of these other nuisances that I had to take care of, and then I'm there, and that's it. Like there's no question of how or maybe or if everything goes well, I will. No, it's like that's what I'm doing. I need to get rid of all of these things in order to get there. To put it in they showed me math. So for those of you who don't know, I was a teacher for 15 years, not teaching math, teaching art, but they showed me math. So let's say you are in a math class and you are learning algebra, right? And so that has like all of this different X's and Y's and figuring things out. And you're learning your numbers now to solve that problem. And it's like, oh, that is really interesting, that problem. And I'm going to solve that, like that. I know the answer to that. But right now I need to get rid of and move through learning the numbers, learning how to add, learning how the sequence and all of the stuff. And I'm looking at that like, yeah, like I know how to do that. I'm doing that, right? And I'm learning these parts, which are the steps towards the knowledge that we need, or the steps that we need in order to be able to solve that problem. I don't know if that's making sense, but that's coming through.
Yes. So I think that equates to like, would you say that the learning part, would that be what you would call the obstacles then, right? Like we're experiencing obstacles on the journey. One of my questions was going to be, what's the purpose of the obstacles? Because I think that's where people get really hung up, is like, it's like, it takes the wind out of the sails, but it's like when we can really connect with the whole purpose of it in the first place, it almost allows us to see it from a bigger perspective. So what would you say the purpose of obstacles are from the beginning?
So they're challenges and they're growing your soul. It's every obstacle or every part that we're like, as a human, why is this happening again? Right? Like whatever. those are all opportunities for us to decide in that moment, again, do I actually really want that thing that I want, that I said that I wanted, or am I really, really comfortable here and I want to remain here? And a lot of us are really comfortable where we are, because even as dense and as difficult our life may be, when we're not manifesting, when we have things that are very difficult or sad or anger or jealousy in our life, as difficult as that might be, and as much as we might want love and light and flow to happen, because we haven't achieved the love and light, and we are here remaining in this anger and all of that, that feels safer to us because we know what to expect. We've lived it. We've living it for like a long time. And so it's very comforting to remain in this state of mediocrity, of like, oh, like this is really hard, but, oh, like let's say a job, you have a job that like you really hate, right? Really hate it. And then you start telling yourself the things like, well, but it is paying my bills. Well, I have health insurance. Well, and if I took a chance on me, and if I really did the thing that I really want to do, I would have to leave this security, which I know what it is, as much as I hate the people at work, as much as I hate the work that I do, as much as I hate whatever, but that's safe because I know it. And if I take a chance on me and decide to like step over, maybe start my own business or just follow my passion, right? Something that I've been wanting to do since like little, I have no idea if I'm going to make it. I have no idea if I'm going to make enough money from that to take care of myself and my family. If you're, supporting your family, that's a huge deal. And it's so scary. But every single time that somebody has really jumped in with both feet and follow their dream fully, without allowing the obstacles, the fears, I didn't get paid this month, I should just go get another job. And this has happened to me like now, because for the audience who doesn't know, I left my job of 15 years, my cushy job, with the insurance and all of that stuff, about 2 years ago. Was it 2 years? Maybe 2.5. I don't know. And I left it, and then I started my business, and I wasn't making money at the beginning. In fact, I was spending money because I was spending money on my spiritual journey. I was spending money on coaches. I was spending money on a lot of things that I was working on me, and I wasn't really receiving anything. And it was really scary at the point, like, what am I going to do? Now, I did have a job before, and I'm a very good saver. So I did have money to fall back. I was not living paycheck to paycheck where, I could just leave my job and then not make money. And then, what am I going to do? I didn't do that decision, right? So like I did have a nest that I had saved from my regular job to be able to do this and feel safe, right? But this happened. And I remember very specifically that I had invested a lot of money in how to begin my business. And then it was like, hits, right? Like, and every month I would be like, okay, my goal is to do X, right? And my X goal was to have a client, one person who believed truly in me and want to pay me, right? Because I had plenty of people that were coming to me for free. And they were like, I had like waiting list of people who were like, yes, I want to work with you. Yes, thank you so much, blah, 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 blah. But none of them were paying clients. So when I started my business, and I was like, okay, now that you know who I am and what I can do, now I'm starting my business. So now, this is my fee. And then it was like, no, we don't want to pay you. I mean, that's the way it felt, right? And month after month, I would see other people in the containers that I was with other coaching and stuff, that would get their clients and they would get their business going. And I would like cheer them on wholeheartedly. And at the same time, be like, hey, there must be a reason that I didn't get anybody, right? And then the next month, and this went on for about 3 full months.
Okay.
Where I had like no one. And then what I did is that I kept going. So many of us just give up. We're like, oh, I didn't make it. Let me go get a job at Target to get some money in, right? And I did have those thoughts too, what I'm in the car waiting, like, oh, they're hiring, maybe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So these are all parts of our ego trying to keep us small, and also so that we can regroup and really feel into, do I really want this? Or do I prefer to go back to where I was?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so every time that it happens, that you don't make your goal, that you're not making the money, that you're not receiving the things that you're wanting to do, it's an opportunity for you to be like, okay, do I really want what I want? Or do I want to go back and work for somebody? If that's the situation. I'm just using that, my own situation, as an example, right? And then you choose. And then you start thinking, and I'm thinking, yeah, I could never imagine myself back in the classroom. I can never imagine myself working for someone. I can never imagine myself needing to drop off my child before school hours, running to work, coming back and picking him up after school hours because my job is longer than the school system is, and him spending all that time there, and then coming home and cramming some time with him and being exhausted and then doing it again the next day, which is where I was. And I didn't like that. And so I left my job and I took a chance on me doing something that was really inspirational to me and satisfying, because I was able to receive that freedom and that feeling of, hey, I'm actually a better mother now. At least, I mean, I don't know. That's my own feeling about myself, right? Like I can be there for him. Today, before this, my son's school was having a May procession, which, you know, is a Catholic thing, and they walk around the school singing. And because he's doing his first communion tomorrow, he got to dress up, and it was like a huge thing. I was never able to do this when I was working without taking a day off, and then, you know, feeling guilty for taking a day off. How many of you have been there? Right.
Right. Yeah.
So it is taking that step forward, and going back to when I first started getting clients. I remember my system shaking because I remember that somebody came in and booked to work with me at my highest level. And back then I didn't have like long containers. I had like single sessions, but it was like the highest level. I think it was like $550 for one session. It was a soul retrieval thing. And they booked it. And I knew this person. And I was like, my whole system was shaking. Like, I cannot believe someone booked this with me. That's very telling. I was not getting clients those 3 months because I had this subconscious belief that I can't believe someone would pay me for the work that I do.
Yes. That was going to be one of the questions that I was going to ask you was, how has your own healing journey changed how you're manifesting and what you're calling in, right? Like, well, it sounds like because you were aware of the subconscious belief, you then were able to heal it, right? So it's like this void was actually surfacing the unconscious belief so that you could heal it, right?
Right. And so here we go, 3 months, no clients. Then I get one client, and he was at my highest level, and my whole body is shaking. And then this is a true story. After that, right, I'm excited and shaking that somebody booked with me. Wow, excited, yay. And then I was like, she just booked with me because she wants to help me. I actually had that thought. And then, and I had to work through that because I actually believed that for months. And then afterwards, as my spiritual work continued to go, it dawned on me. And I said to myself, Valeria, what friend would spend $550 to help you?
Yeah,
unless they
right? Yeah,
that's like a substantial amount of money, right? But this is where my ego was. This is where I was being my ego was really telling me, like, no, you're really not worth it, or you really can't do it. Obviously, people would not be paying me if they didn't think it was working, if it wasn't making transformations. But this is where I was. And that was my first year of business, right? Another thing that happened is to let go, right? So I hired someone where I spent a lot of money to help me know how to create a business, right? Like from like, okay, this is what I can do now. How do I create a business, right? I spent a lot of money, and everybody who was in that with that coach was making a lot of money because of what she was teaching, except for me, right? And this is the same person, and I'm like, okay. And then I kept thinking, well, I took a chance. And I listened to you. You told me this is the person, like, right? I'm like arguing with my guys, like, where how was I wrong, right? And like all of these things, like, I can't believe it. I'm still not making the money. Like, I haven't even made what I spent in it. All of these ego things, right?
Yeah.
But I kept going and I kept going and I kept doing the things. And then it turned out, and this is the beautiful turnaround of how things work out when we don't know about it, that she became my client.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So she became my client. And then she sent me clients. And then she hired me again a second time. And then she sent me more clients. And then I was like, oh, this is what it was. So me working with her wasn't so much for me to learn from her, which I did, about how to create a business, which I did. But it was more about the connection that I would create with her and how my business would grow because of the connection that I had with her.
Ooh, so big. What you were just saying, where it's like, we think it means something, but it can mean something so much bigger.
Yes. And the only way that you are allowed to see the fruition of what trusting means is if you don't give up and you don't stop and you keep smiling and you keep your focus and you keep going towards the goal that you want, trusting all the time. And sometimes it takes months, right? So I had that aha moment about 8 months later. That's a long time of me doing the work and getting very little response or results in my business because of all the other stuff that I had to work through and clear. And those things were not coming up to be cleared unless I was in the moment.
Yes. Yeah. Had you not created that moment for yourself, you never would have known they were there. You never would have cleared them. Or maybe you would have known they were there, but you wouldn't have known how to clear them or that you wanted to clear them because there was no purpose for clearing it. It's like, I'm comfortable, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So it takes you out of that comfort zone to understand what was keeping you in the comfort zone. So it's like this void period of like noticing the things all of a sudden that are keeping you from getting to the next level so you can heal them, create a new floor to stand on in the next level.
Yeah. I mean, it was like really eye-opening for me. And I'm like, wow, like this is how the flow works, right? So trusting that it's not just what you, the human, thinks it is or the reason it is, but it's because of something else. And so this is coming through. So maybe there's somebody in the audience thinking about this, or that's the relationship. Let's say they call in a romantic partner. And it's like, oh, this is the person. I have all of the feelings and, everything's awesome. And then they go and they start dating this person. And then it turns out that it's really bad and something bad happens, whatever. And then they're like heartbroken. But through the connection of dating this person, they have met someone else during that time. Then this person falls off and the someone else is the key person to allow them or help them manifest something else, perhaps something in their business.
Yes. Yeah. Having the wider view. It's like we get tunnel vision and we're like, this is the only way. And I'm not seeing any of the signs on the outside. When we take a step back and lean into trust and broaden our view, it's like, it's all happening for a reason. It's like the littlest things. I remember one time ordering food like Uber Eats and being like, it's like about to be delivered. And then for some reason it gets canceled and I'm like hangry and like, what in the, So I decided to go to Trader Joe's. I decided to go get groceries and I go there and I'm manifesting spiritual friends in the area. And as I'm checking out, the person who's checking me out is like, I did, I love emotional intelligence. And we're just talking and I'm like, oh my gosh, had my food showed up, I would not have come to Trader Joe's. I might not have met this person. And now we're talking about spirituality. And now I'm realizing there's spiritual people in the city I live in, like little micro moments where it's like, it seems so minute and it actually turns out to be maybe the seed that needed to be planted or the relationship that needed to be planted, whatever it was. It's like, it's all connected and it's all bringing us to our next level. We just have to trust and broaden our perspective and lean into trust really deeply, surrender.
Totally. And it is acknowledging those little moments because we all have those moments all the time, but we're not aware.
Yes.
So now you're aware, you're like, oh, and you're able to put it together, right?
Yes.
This didn't happen. I had to do this. I was upset, but yet, wow, I got this connection and you acknowledge it, right? When we acknowledge them, what happens? Your guys are like, oh, great, you're listening. Awesome. And then you get another and then another. But when we let go and we don't pay attention and we just think, oh, coincidence, whatever, or it's not a big deal, then what happens? Then you don't get more guidance. It's not as easy to receive because you're blocking it.
It's not a two-way conversation at that point. It's kind of like I'm throwing things at her or him, and she's not receiving it. So what's the point of throwing the things, continuing, because you're not receiving it, and it takes the two to throw it over the fence and the other person to catch it, right?
Yeah. And the other thing that, and I just received this message a couple of weeks ago, was that they're going to keep on sending you the same type of message.
So you're not growing unless you catch it. Yeah.
This is why people feel stuck. So you're stuck, you feel stuck because like, oh, I'm not moving. I'm in the same place. My business is the same place. My relations, whatever. It's because they keep giving you that one message and you're not getting it. And so they give you the same message and you're repeating everything. In the meantime, you're just repeating your cycles and you're repeating the same stuff going on, right? Right. And they're not giving you anything extra because it doesn't make sense. So let's say you are receiving a message of moving to a different state. Like me, right? So my message was move to Italy.
Right. Yeah. Bigger. Yeah.
Right. And I was like, oh yeah, awesome. I'm going to go. Right. And I was all for it. I listened and then I put all the things in motion to do it. Everyone, like I told you, everyone that I knew back then was in awe that all of that happened in such a short amount of time. And it happened. I received the message and I took action, and then I kept taking action and kept taking action and kept taking action until I got there. And it was fabulous. Right. So once I got there, I got to do a whole bunch of other healing for me, right? So let's say I didn't listen to move to Italy, right? I didn't listen and I just kept living my life here in the situations that I had, with the things that I had. I would be getting the same message, move to Italy, or maybe move to somewhere else. I don't know, like to go somewhere else. And I wouldn't be receiving the messages of the additional healing that I got once I was in Italy, because I'm not there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So how are they supposed to give it to me, right? So like they just keep saying, move, go, right? So that's the way it works. So a lot of us will feel really stuck in our manifestations, and it's because we're not listening. And sometimes our human gets in the way of what the guys are saying. So our human can say, for example, let's say your dream is to be an actress, right? And you are doing all the things and you getting passed on and getting small roles and really not making it. And you're like really going for it. And it's hard, right? And it's like, well, why am I not making it? And in the meantime, you kept getting all of these messages about doing something else. Maybe it's directing, just to say anything, right? And you're like, I don't want to direct. I want to be the actress in the front, right? And you're getting these other messages and you're not listening and you keep not getting it. And you may spend your entire life not getting it because you're not listening to the message. Where if you finally listen, like, okay, you know what? Let me try this other thing that I have this idea keeps popping up. And you go and all of a sudden you blossom and you become like really famous and like really like something that you didn't even know you had because you listen. And so sometimes when we're trying to manifest something and we are really tunnel vision minded into something that we want, but it's not coming to us easy, or we keep feeling all of the blocks, and it becomes hard to move through the blocks. It's not like, okay, here's the block, I didn't get this piece, and now, okay, what's the next one, right? That's moving forward fast and allowing the universe to move you. But the other way is like, oh, I didn't get it, and then going into the depression, and that maybe I'm not good enough, and maybe spending a week in bed or just feeling sorry for yourself. So that stops the motion. Right. And that's hard. And if you're doing something that feels that is hard like that, then that's a sign that it's not aligned for you, especially if you're receiving another idea or another message in the back of your head somewhere that has nothing to do with that one thing.
Yeah. Yes. 100%. Yeah. That's
going
huge.
Back to that manifesting thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it's like you have this sense of knowing, similar to what you were saying. I know that I'm meant to be, let's say, an actress, and you keep also hearing move to New York, but you're in LA, right? And you're like, no, this is the only way. Everyone who's an actress is in LA. And it's like, actually, there's a different way. And you're going to meet the person who's going to put you on the stage. There's going to be a person in the audience that's going to see you. And maybe you'll come back to LA, or maybe you know what I mean? It's like when we get so fixated, or when we lean into I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. It's like when we focus our energy on that, we then miss the messages because we're so deep in our own stuff that what I find when I get really deep in my own stuff, I'm not hearing the guidance as well. And that's why we want to shift too, is it's like, actually, I know that this is I know that it's happened, right? Like you were saying, it's happened. I have this sense of knowing that it is, and therefore I'm staying open to the way that it manifests in my reality. I'm staying open. And the only way to stay open is to not close off and start to tell yourself that you suck, right? Because that has us close off to the guidance. And it's like, just open yourself back up, feel it. That's fine to release it. And with the intention of getting yourself back up to then open yourself to the next possibility.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it's making the decision of like, I've had enough of this, whatever it is. And then this is what I'm going to do. This is my shift. So it requires this shift in your mentality of, I choose that instead of this, instead of like, maybe I would like to try that. No, right? That's not full-heartedly I'm deciding. It's more of like, okay, I'm doing it, period. Like if you're going to the bathroom, right? Not to be like nasty or anything, but like, okay, I'm going to the bathroom. Maybe not. What?
It's like, but what? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you have to go, right?
At some point. Yeah, exactly. You're going to pee your pants. And then it's a whole other bag of issues.
That came through. It's really funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love it. Well, is there a specific, like, is there a favorite or a most effective manifestation tool that you use? Or healing tool that you use? Because as we know, healing what's in the way of the manifestation is huge too. Is there a tool that you use that if someone was listening, that they could just implement right away to start to really manifest the thing that they desire?
Okay, so I might sound like a broken record of what's out there, but really this is what has always worked for me, now that I really am aware of it. And that is truly keeping your eye on the prize and keeping your attention on what it is that you want as a final goal. So I did this list of 100 things that I wanted to manifest last January, not this one. I actually did this year as well, but I'm just going to tell you last year. And I wrote all the things that I wanted, and I wrote them as, I would like to believe that. I didn't write I am, because back then, and this is what I'm telling you about last year, not this year. Last year, I didn't believe it, right? I'm like, well, if I say that I am a successful business owner and I see myself as not, then my brain says, no, you're lying to yourself, right? Or if I say I own a house at the beach and I don't, then your brain says, no, you don't, and you're lying to yourself. So it's that back and forth that kind of cancels out your manifestation. And so I wrote my list as, I would like to believe that I own a house on the beach. I would like to believe, and I did this with my book, right? I wrote, I would like to believe that I'm a best-selling author. No, actually I wrote that I'm an author. And then right after that, I'm like, actually, it would be better if I was a best-selling author. So I wrote, I would like to believe that I'm a best-selling author. And then, so I did my list, right? And I started every single sentence with, I would like to believe. You can also write, wouldn't it be nice if, as a starting point, right? But what that does, by putting that little bit in the front, instead of saying I am, which is what we would want to say, is that I am in the present moment, so that you don't interact the ego saying, no, you're not. So you say, wouldn't it be nice if, right? So once you have your list, and the list is 100 or more things. And the reason is that as you're writing things, you're going to really get to the deeper things of what you really desire. Because you might have a list of like, oh, I want $1 million, or I wanted this house, or I want this car. And they're very superficial things that the ego is like, oh, that's what you must have in order to be successful. And then you run out of the things and you're like, oh, what else would I want, right? Like, and you start thinking, right? Oh, maybe I would like to have an experience of going on a hot air balloon, right? And that's the experience of and it's like so much more than owning a thing, right? And so you get to all of those things, and then you want to read this list out loud every day, at least once a day. So you can do it in the morning and at night if you want, or if you have the time, or just once. And what I used to do is I used to say this while I was in car line waiting for my son to get out of school. And I would just, because I had it on a document, I would open my phone, I would just start saying it. And you will find that as you're reading your list, your energy begins to rise
Mhm.
because you're getting excited about what you're saying. And you begin to like, wow, wouldn't that be nice if I had that, right? And you get faster and faster at reading it. And that little moment that might take you 5 minutes to read every single day rises your energy so high with a vision of what you're actually wanting to manifest that carries you on for most of the day, depending on what your day looks like, to be able to begin to manifest those things. And I manifested, I think it was about 7 or 8 things within 3 weeks of writing that. The book, I wrote a book, and the book person that helped me get published showed up for me about 10 days after I started saying this. I wrote my chapter like 6 weeks after it. And then it did become a best-selling book, which made me a best-selling author. And that was in June. And I started in January, right? So that's fast, right? From somebody who has no idea of how am I going to do this, because I really had no idea. The person who did it for me or who took care of that showed up for me.
Yes.
And I took action.
Yes.
Right?
Full circle. Yes. Yes.
Right. And so that is one of the things that I think really, really works so quickly is make your list of 100 or more things that you want. You can start your list with, wouldn't it be nice if, or I would like to believe that, and then whatever it is that you want, and write. My list was 162 things, just to let you know. And the first day that I did it, I only got up to like 43. And then I was like, I have no idea what else. So then I just kept adding. You also want to revise this list and write and make sure that all of your statements are in the positive. So for example, I would like to be fit. I would like to be thin. I would like to be strong, instead of I would like to lose weight. You see, it has a different feeling, right? And or I would not like to be fat. Or I would not want to attract clients that that are not well aligned with me.
Yeah, the energy of those, you can feel it's like constricting in the chest versus like expansive, right?
Right.
That's how I feel it as you say the difference in the phrases. Yeah.
Right. And so I did my list, and I do my list on a document on a computer because it's easy to change them. So you write them, you just write until you can't think of anything else. And you keep going the next day until you get at least 100. And then you're reading them. And as you're reading them, then you catch it. Then you're like, oh, I wrote that backwards. I wrote that as a not to, right? And then you can just rewrite it in a way that is positive so that you can manifest it. And then sometimes you're going to get to it, and this happens to me all the time, that I'm reading something, I'm like, yeah, actually, I don't want that. So then you catch the things that the ego is telling you that you want, right? Yeah. And not what you actually want, because you're really becoming more in tune with yourself and what you want, because you're vibrating at a high energy. So laughing, love, being in a state of happiness immediately and instantly puts you in the frequency of receiving the things that you want.
Yes.
And this list, when you make a list and you read it, it does that for you. And so you're able to manifest these things so much faster. And the things on the list don't have to be big. They can be big and small so that you manifest them quickly. So you can say, I would like to believe that I drive a new car. And you can say, I would like to believe that I get flowers. Right. And so which one is easier to get, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And you might get flowers, and then you're like, oh, the list works. And yes, it does. And it works for everything. But when you put the little things or the smaller things in that same list, and you begin to see those appear in your reality, then your subconscious believes, oh, well, if that worked, then that means everything can work.
Yes, that's huge. That's huge. Yeah. Yeah. I love to, like, one of the things I really wanted to point out is that you do it in the morning and at night, because in the morning it sets you up for that energy. It kind of puts you in that momentum, that positive momentum, and we manifest in our sleep. So why not have positive thinking going into it, or positive energy going into our most subconscious state of being, right? And start to actually build those things out in our energy while we're sleeping. How would you, does that feel accurate to you when you think about manifestation and sleep?
Definitely. Those are two though that's the ideal way of doing it, but I don't want people to get to not do it because I couldn't do it in the morning or I couldn't do it at night. So this is why I share with you, I did it when I was at Caroline. So that was about 2:45 p.m. I was in the car waiting. Why? Because in the morning I didn't have time. Because I wanted to say it out loud. And I didn't feel safe saying it out loud in my home. So I wanted to be alone or when no one could hear me so I could really put the energy. And so I literally was not doing it in my home because I just didn't feel safe, right? And so I did it in the car and that worked for me. Now, if you do it in the morning and at night or one of those, it might work even faster for you. And I told you, I manifested about 6-7 things within the first 11 days. And that's how fast things begin to show up for you. Like one of the things that I had put in there was that I wanted to hear back from or reconnect with like old friends that were no longer in my space. And then lo and behold, somebody sends me a message and it's like, oh my gosh, right? And then I put something about my son, like I would like to have more play dates. So I would like the parents in his class to reach out to me. And then we got an invitation. So like, you see, like not everything has to be like a thing or it has to be big. It's just something that, hey, I would like that. Or wouldn't that be nice?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And my things were all over the place. And then if you have one thing, let's say like with your health, right? Like I wrote, I would like to be lean. And then I got another, I would like to be thin. That's like similar. I would like to be, actually, I want to be strong. And actually, I want to be healthy, right? And so I have 4 sentences there, all going towards the same goal.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And so this is how it works. If you're thinking like, I can imagine getting 100 things, this is how you can do it. So I had about 10 different things that had to do with the same thing, right? And then like, let's say it was travel, right? Wouldn't it be nice if I was in Aruba? And then like other places started coming up and I would just write them down, wouldn't it be nice if... And so so you can have maybe 10 themes and then you have those things, but don't think of them as themes. Like whatever comes in your head, write it up.
Yeah, no rules, just have it be fun and have it work for you. That's like the main thing that I'm hearing from you too, is like, have it work for you. There are no rules. This is your list, your manifestations, and you get to connect with. The only way it works is if you do it, right? It's like, so you might as well make it work for you, is like really leaning into like what feels good for you is meant for you.
Yeah. And just start writing. You don't have to think, you don't have to like make it like a big deal. Just start writing, whatever it is. Like, what would I want right now? Right now, maybe I would like a really cold glass of water because I'm hot, right? Like,
yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness, Valeria, thank you so much. This was so beautiful, so insightful, so much wisdom just pours through you. And I'm so grateful for you being in this space and for sharing potent examples of what people can actually do in the moment. Real life examples, because they're so relatable. And I saw a piece of me in everything that you were saying where it was like, ooh, okay, yes, yes. So building that momentum towards everyone's most soul-aligned life. So thank you for holding this space for everyone, for just sharing your life wisdom. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for you.
You're so welcome. And thank you so much for having me here. I'm so grateful that we were able to do this. Thank you so much.
Me too. So where do you hang out? So if people want to connect with you, where can they connect with you?
So I'm on Facebook. I have a private Facebook group that is called Healing Through You. And I do live card readings there weekly. And now I've also been doing live channelings of the Council of 9. And I have a podcast, which is called Healing Through You. And I have a website, which is called Healing Through You.
Yeah, let's make it simple. I love it. Perfect.
Yes.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Valeria. Definitely connect with her. She's absolutely incredible. So much wisdom to share. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.